This is the MetroStars 2001 year in review. The goals, the saves, the stars, and the stories from the Metro's most memorable season in Major League Soccer. 2000 was the MetroStars' best season ever. A franchise record for victories, the Eastern Division Championship, a quarterfinal win over the Dallas Burn, and a heartbreaking finish, falling 1 goal shy of the MLS Cup. Coming off such an amazing year, the MetroStars were expected to be contenders for the Cup in 2001.
Yeah, I think coming into the season 2001, we were all optimistic, to say the least. We made big strides the previous season, so we were coming looking to do some damage. All of our expectations were to win a championship.
You know, all that experience that we gained the year before, we thought would get us to the final this year and hopefully to win the championship.
The offseason brought key changes to the team. In one of the biggest moves in MLS, Mike Amon, the starting goalkeeper, was traded to DC United for midfielder Richie Williams and a player allocation. With the move, head coach Octavio Zambrano gave the 2001 starting goalkeeping job and a big vote of confidence to 22-year-old Tim Howard.
I knew that he was ready to step in, and we would have done a disservice to him had we kept him another year on the bench. Even though Mike was a good goalkeeper for us and he performed very well, we felt it was time for Timmy to go forward because he was ready mentally more than anything else to take up the challenge.
It was difficult because Mike Amon, has done well for us in the past, but it wasn't a difficult one because Timmy Howard is just a phenomenal goalkeeper, and it's not like it was a hidden secret around us. You could just tell that he was something special.
It was important that Octavio and Nick told me they were gonna go with me. No matter what happened, they were gonna stick by me.
In addition, the team picked up young Brazilian forward Rodrigo Faria in the Super Draft.
Octavio picked me as a first pick, so it was a great moment in my life, probably the greatest moment so far.
The changes of Timmy Howard and the acquisition of Rodrigo Faria were the two major moves that we made. We have in those two young men, two players for the future of this franchise.
With returning stars such as Clinton Mathis, Mike Petke, and a healthy Tab Ramos, the Metros looked loaded and ready for a march to the Cup.
Comes down to Baba, left through Lataro, great save by Howard. Escobosa, Padilla, scores!
We felt we had now put together a team that could seriously challenge for a championship.
With 7 of their first 8 games played at Giant Stadium, the MetroStars knew they needed to get off to a fast start, and that's exactly what they did. The 2001 campaign opened at home versus the New England Revolution, with Clinton Mathis scoring the MetroStars' first goal of the season.
The first game, you never really know what to expect. You don't expect to be the best that your team's going to be in the season, but you want to get out the gates good.
Headed up once, Mathis' bicycle kick was blocked. They won a handball.
We were excited for the game, and then just to come out and have the fans feel the same excitement was awesome. For me, it was great. It was my first time starting, and the crowd was behind me, so it was something I definitely needed.
Mathis and Valencia now.
Adolfo Valencia scored the game winner in stoppage time to give the home team the win in front of over 30,000 fans. This early victory seemed to set the tone for the season. With the season barely underway, one player stood out above all others in MLS, Clint Mathis. He was the early season favorite for league MVP after some amazing performances. His hat trick led the team to a 4-1 victory over the defending champion Kansas City Wizards. He scored a brilliant goal on a 60-yard run in a 3-2 victory over the Dallas Burn. And he netted a goal and an assist in a big 2-0 win over his former club, the Los Angeles Galaxy.
I think coming into this season, I think it just flowed for him, that's just Clint, he just goes out there and does his thing and great things happen.
Mathis was the star the MetroStars were looking for.
He's a very happy-go-lucky guy, and that translates to his play on the field. To be honest with you, I don't think I could imagine the pressure he had on him. He was hailed as the next greatest player in American soccer.
Everything was going their way as the MetroStars could not be denied victory. They scored 3 goals in the final 11 minutes in a come-from-behind 3-2 win over arch-rival DC United.
The MetroStars have tied it up. Out to Comas, down he goes, and it's Clinton, and the goal!
That game was a huge game for our team and also for the fans to sit there and know that we're really never out of a game.
What an improbable comeback for the MetroStars. 3 goals in 11 minutes.
I was a rhythm man. You know, anyone to count us out, and that was big for us because that came in early in the season.
They even posted a 2-0 win over Bayern Munich, just days after the world's #1 ranked club defeated Valencia in the UEFA Champions League final.
I think the message that we sent to our fans was that our players can stand on the same field as the best team in Europe.
Bayern Munich is one of the big clubs in the world, and they brought, whether their subs played or their starters played, they're all good players. And I think we had a good show, and I think that only helps our league internationally and with our fans as well.
The Metros completed their early season stretch with a 6-1-1 record and appear to be the early season favorites for a trip to the MLS Cup.
Defense was playing well, midfield was doing well, getting the ball to the forwards. Clint scoring as usual.
That was a fun time, those first 10 games.
However, over the next 7 games, the season took a turn in the opposite direction as almost everything went wrong for the MetroStars.
We had a mid-season spelling where we really were not hitting in all cylinders, but the biggest reason for that was because we had some untimely injuries at that time.
The Metros suffered a huge blow when Mathis was lost for the season after tearing his right ACL at a U.S. national team practice.
Clint Mathis went down with a knee injury, and that right there pulls away a lot of our scoring.
It's kind of unfortunate, but I really never let it bother me. As soon as it happened, I was like, oh well, you know, that's the way life goes sometimes, you know. Can't worry about it. You just gotta know that you can work hard to get back, and hopefully I'll become better.
Further setbacks plagued the club as Tab Ramos, Roy Myers, Rodrigo Faria, Billy Walsh, and Steve Shack all suffered injuries during this mid-season stretch.
I tell you, I don't think we've had a year here on this team in the 6 years I've been here where we've had so many injuries. And that was really disappointing because going into the year, the expectations were so high.
The result, an 0-5-2 stretch that dropped the MetroStars 14 points behind the Miami Fusion in the race for the Eastern Division crown.
We went into this slump that we just kept losing games, and if Clint Mathis goes down, there's not another Clint Mathis. If Taft goes down, there's not another one like that that's going to bring the same kind of level to the team, and when that happens, a lot of other teams take advantage of that.
The one shining star during this period was goalkeeper Tim Howard. Howard single-handedly kept the MetroStars in most matches and helped the team earn their only 2 points during this 7-game stretch.
All the teams attack flat out with every player. Not to mention every team has a good duo up top of either international stars or big-time American players. So it's tough every game. You know, you can't let up. You're gonna have 2 guys coming down your throat.
On June 3rd, he made 8 saves versus New England in a 1-1 draw.
He's one of the most athletic people I've seen, the stuff he can do and the saves he comes up with. I mean, he definitely kept us in a lot of games.
On June 16th, he shut out San Jose for a scoreless draw in front of a big home crowd.
He loves to play, loves to compete, and it's great to look back and just see him jumping around like a 2-year-old and making these phenomenal saves that really he should not be making and no one should be making.
Timmy came up with some extraordinary saves that kept us in games, and that's what great goalkeepers do.
As the midseason approached, some individuals were recognized for their outstanding play. Clint Mathis and Mike Petke were named as starters to the MLS East All-Star team, while Steve Jolly and Tim Howard were picked as reserves. The All-Star game was an exciting one, ending up in a 6-6 draw. Tim Howard was one of the biggest stars of the day, making 11 spectacular saves in the second half to help the East come from behind and tie it up.
I got out there, and I think it was like the maybe first minute I was in the game. I had to make a diving save to my right, and from that point on, it didn't stop. But I had a lot of fun playing with Steve and all those guys, Mike Petke, and so it was a heck of a weekend for me.
Timmy's first-year player, for him to get the nod, it was a good stepping stone for Steve Jolly because he had a great year, and he deserved that 100%, and it was a good feeling for myself to be there.
It showed the rest of the league that we had, 3 of our defenders, and that we were solid. Even if we went through a little bit of a slump, we were solid. in the back, and that was just our stage to prove that.
I think Timmy Howard, having Clint out of the lineup, became the figure that I think sort of led the way for us, that became the most important player.
If there is one thing that all great teams have, it is the character to overcome adversity. When key players go down, others step up and lead. The Metros got outstanding performances out of 2 players during their stretch run.
Go MetroStars!
Tim Howard continued his stellar goalkeeping, and Rodrigo Faria, though only a rookie, stepped in for Clint Mathis and ignited the team with his scoring touch.
We just didn't get back on track until late in the season because we finally said, okay, we're going to put all our eggs in one basket with Rodrigo and we're going to ride him.
It's difficult for any player to come in and take Mathis's shoes.
It's not the type of pressure I'd want as a rookie.
True ball for Faria against Yamosa. Faria scores!
He did not feel the pressure at all. In fact, I think he relished on that pressure, and that's why he did so well.
That was a moment to show my game that I belong to this league, to this team, and I can't miss the opportunity.
Faria showed the way to victory by scoring a goal and an assist in a 2-1 win over DC United in RFK Stadium.
He took advantage of the fact that we had some injuries, and he played well, and I tell you, I think he gave us more than we could ever expect also.
He's very passionate, more so than a lot of young players, and that's great to see.
Against New England, the young Brazilian also had a big game when netting 2 goals at home in a 3-1 win.
He understood what the challenge was, that when the opportunity came, he had to do the best that he could.
With newfound confidence, the MetroStars knew that a strong run in Florida was crucial if they wanted to make the playoffs.
One of the things that I think defined our season this year was probably our stretch through Florida when we went down to Tampa. And I think we had one available substitute on our bench that game, and we won the game in the last minute.
The Butler did it!
2 days later, we had Miami in the Orange Bowl, and they had a huge crowd there that day, and Timmy Howard made a save on Diego Serna that was just world class, and we won that game down there as well. And I think that swing through Florida really underscores the character, determination, and attitude of this organization.
The Metros showed they were contenders and continued their domination with 2 more wins over MLS points leader, the Miami Fusion. In their next meeting on August 4th, in front of over 41,000 fans and a national TV audience, the Metros pulled out a 2-1 victory at home with Faria and Mark Chung providing the scoring.
Well, I think Miami, most of all, had a mental block when it came to playing us. I don't know if something happened to that team, but they were not the same team that played the rest of the league.
In their 3rd and final game with the Fusion, Daniel Hernandez was the hero, scoring the game winner on an amazing free kick in stoppage time for a 3-2 victory.
Daniel Hernandez, his first ever MLS goal!
That kind of put us back, so to speak, into contention. And then we knew then that if we just maintained, we would make the playoffs.
Despite their midseason struggles, the MetroStars were in contention for a top 4 seed and home field advantage in the playoffs. With the Metros challenging the league leaders late in the season, the sports world was suddenly ground to a halt on September 11th.
Our players were clearly impacted by it and touched by it.
Especially being a local guy and having grown up right across from the Twin Towers and having played most of my youth games with the Twin Towers in the background. Obviously it was a great shock, and to me it was personal.
We thought that putting together these unity games would be, not only the right thing to do, but also somewhat of a healing process for our own organizations.
For that first week or two, you felt helpless, not being able to do anything. But then being able to have the charity games and help take water down to ground zero as close as we could get, it felt like you were doing something, and to have the professional athlete tag behind it made it even more special.
I don't consider myself a hero anymore. I might be someone that a kid looks up to because he wants to be a professional athlete, but my job is not life and death. These people, gave their lives, and they knew they were going to give their lives, and they're my heroes.
I think we really saw who the true stars of this area are.
Because of the tragedy, the final week of regular season Major League Soccer games were canceled. The MetroStars final showdown with Miami and a season-ending trip to New England would not be played. After a solid 7-4-0 run to end the season, the team would finish the regular season in second place in the Eastern Division and earn a 6th seed in the MLS Cup playoffs. It would be a showdown versus the Los Angeles Galaxy in the MLS Cup playoff quarterfinals.
Being a team from New York, we wanted to do our best and try to, win for the city of New York.
Going into it, we thought this is a big time matchup for us.
There are a lot of us that were in that franchise at one time, so it represented something special.
The MetroStars took the field for the first time in over 2 weeks at the Rose Bowl against LA in the first to reach 5 points playoff series. Game 1 was a back-and-forth affair until the Metros went up 1-0 in the 29th minute on a left-footed shot by Faria, a score that would hold up until halftime. In the second half, the Galaxy pressed hard for the equalizer. They finally got it in the 63rd minute when defender Paul Caligiuri blasted home a close-range header. Then just 3 minutes later, the Metros found themselves a man down when Gilmar was sent off for a foul on Kobe Jones. The rest of the way, Tim Howard stepped up to preserve the draw as the Galaxy tried to take advantage of their man-up situation. After Caligiuri was red-carded with 7 minutes left in regulation, the playing field was even, and neither team was able to score again. The series was tied at 1 point each.
Home advantage is so important to have because at home, nobody can beat the MetroStars.
The MetroStars returned home to New York on September 26th for the first game played in Giant Stadium since the World Trade Center attacks. After an emotional opening ceremony honoring the heroes for the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Department, the Metros took the field to try to tip the series balance in their favor. The Galaxy got on the board first when Sasha Victorine finished off a chance in just the 4th minute to put LA up 1-0, a score that held up through the half. The game changed early in the second half when LA defender Greg Vanny was sent off after receiving his second yellow card for a foul on Faria. From there, the Galaxy could only weather the storm for so long. The Metros got on the board in the 72nd minute when Faria headed the ball into the back of the net from the 6. That opened up the floodgates. Chung, Faria again, and then finally Valencia all scored to give the home team a 4-1 victory, and bigger still, a huge 4-1 points lead in the series.
When I stepped into the field to play against LA, I was really confident.
Rodrigo came up with a couple big goals, and then we got another one, and then another one. So, we were looking good for us to win the home game, which is always important.
The results of Game 2 meant the Metros only needed a draw in Game 3 to advance to the semifinals. It would be a game for the ages in the heat of the Rose Bowl. The Galaxy took a 2-0 lead in a halftime, with Victorine netting both goals. Soon after halftime, Peter Villegas put the MetroStars on the board with a one-timer in the 49th minute. The Galaxy would quickly restore their 2-goal advantage. Just 7 minutes later, Adam Fry scored on a deflection to make it 3-1. But only 4 minutes after that, Villegas brought the Metros back within one again with a rocket of a shot. LA defender Danny Califf was sent off in the 72nd minute for dragging down Faria, but the Metros couldn't take advantage. With LA keeper Kevin Hartman making some tremendous saves, the Galaxy were able to preserve their lead and take the 3-2 win.
We got a little bit unlucky, and they got a little bit lucky.
The Galaxy regulation win sent the game into a 20-minute golden goal series tiebreaker. With the season on the line, both teams battled to be the first to score. And finally, it was LA's Mauricio Cienfuegos who ended the MetroStars' up-and-down year with a free kick that deflected off of Chung and into the net.
The only thing I could say, it wasn't our time, because the goal that they scored was, it was basically a luck goal.
I just, especially after the last 3 years, I just really thought this could have been the year that we could do it.
I think we caught a team that was hot and that was very hard to beat, and deservedly, I think they went into the final.
After the history this team's had, and after the 2000 season, we definitely proved to people that, we're a contender now.
I don't think that you can call it a successful campaign unless you come up with a trophy at the end of it. And we didn't do that. So for that reason, I don't think our team achieved the success that I envisioned for this team to achieve.
Roller coaster, you know, it was up and down.
Despite the tough year-ending loss, the great season by some of the MetroStars did not go unnoticed, as a few players were honored with year-end awards. Clint Mathis was given the 2001 Goal of the Year award for his beautiful 60-yard run versus the Dallas Burn early in the year.
Into the 18, Mathis the shot.
If I'd have realized where I was, I probably would have never ran that far.
And the winner of the 2001 MLS Goal of the Year from the MetroStars, Clint Mathis.
I'm just glad that, you know, when I look back at my whole career and I remember some of the great goals I've seen, this is one of the ones that's going to stand out, not only because it was so great and one of the best ones I've seen, but because I was right there the whole way.
I don't think too many of you speak fluent redneck like I do. And my translator missed his flight, so I definitely apologize on that. To a serious note, I would like to thank each and every person that did vote for me on this award, and for everybody that puts up with me day in and day out.
Rodrigo Faria was rewarded for his fine season with the 2001 Kellogg's Rookie of the Year award.
Thank you, everybody. This is a great honor for me. Thank you.
One of the big bright spots of the new year was Rodrigo Faria. I don't think anybody expected him last year at this time to do what he did. And for him to be a Rookie of the Year was well deserving.
I know it's going to be a pressure for me to improve again and to show the league and to show for the team I really belong for this league that wasn't lucky.
Finally, Tim Howard proved that Coach Zambrano made the right decision by naming him the starter. Howard was honored as the 2001 Aquafina Goalkeeper of the Year and was named as the keeper on the Pepsi Best 11.
I never thought that would happen. It wasn't my goal, is what I'm saying. You know, I wanted to help the team in any capacity I could. You know, and to get rewarded like that for it, it's just big time. You know, those guys in the back share that award with me, and I told them that. You know, I couldn't have done it without them. They put a lot of trust in me. My defenders, without them, you know, I could never win this award. You know, they saved my butt plenty of times.
To know that we have a goalkeeper we can trust, and to know that things are going to be okay in the back, I think that made a big difference for us. And looking into next year, it makes us even a better team than we were going into this year.
These two players established themselves as bona fide Major League Soccer players with an incredible future. The best years are ahead of both of them.
Howard was also named the New York Life Humanitarian of the Year for his work with kids with Tourette's syndrome, a disease Tim himself has lived with his entire life.
It wasn't about my skill. It was about, you know, me giving back to these kids and trying to make life a little bit easier for the kids. You know, and at the end of the day, that's really my job. You know, is to be a role model for the kids. And yeah, I work hard on the field, but if I can help them in their lives, that's so very important to me. So I was happy to get that award, definitely.
With the results of the 2001 season, the MetroStars have established themselves as one of the top teams in Major League Soccer. With a healthy squad, the MetroStars plan to be the last team celebrating in 2002.
We have a lot of great young talent in this organization with Tim Howard, Mike Pecky, Orlando Perez, Clint Mathis, you name it. These are all guys under the age of 26 who are going to be a force to reckon with in this league in the next couple of years.
I think overall there's a lot of bright spots. There's a lot of people that came through. There's a lot of young players that had an opportunity to do well. We can gather a lot from last season and look into next year with a lot of hope.
We want to get away from that having great talent stage. We want to, you know, have a great team itself, a championship team.
We have a very good team, and a team for sure can win the MLS Cup next year.
Right now, I'm challenging our players that this is going to be a championship year for us, 2002, and I won't take anything less than that.
I can't be happier or more proud of this organization and our fans and our sponsors for being there with us in what I think is the best season that the MetroStars have had since the inaugural year.
2001 was the year that put the MetroStars on the map for good. They have proven themselves in international competition. They have players in the national team pool. But most importantly, they have established themselves as one of the best and most feared teams in Major League Soccer. No one wants to face the MetroStars in a big game, especially in front of a raucous Giant Stadium crowd. Zambrano and his troops have laid the groundwork in their plans for 2002 and MLS Cup Championship. We hope you've enjoyed this look back at the 2001 season. I'm John Paul Della Camera, inviting you to follow the MetroStars on their road to MLS Cup 2002.